Welcome to the chosen bloom. Nothing stings like watching the one you once dismissed become the thing you cannot ignore. They laughed, they doubted, they tried to confine you in a shape that never fit, and now that shape has split apart. That rupture is the first breath of a new story, and it leads us to the next truth. Picture a house built from lies, brick upon careful brick, erected as if falsehood could ever be permanent. Then truth crosses the threshold. The mortar gives way. Walls buckle. The structure collapses into dust, not by force, but by the simple, inevitable presence of what is real. When reality arrives, pretense cannot stand. This is why they tremble. The mind hates being proven wrong. When a long-held belief meets undeniable fact, the psyche reacts as if threatened, nervous, defensive, restless. Your very presence is the evidence their imagination failed to foresee. That failure unsettles them more than any argument could. Thank you, chosen one, for standing in the light. If this message moved you, do your part, press like and subscribe so this light reaches other souls who need it. We are not passive listeners. We are carriers of a truth that, once released, rewrites the story of anyone willing to receive it. Return now to the heart of this moment. They thought they had you mapped, ordinary, background, forgettable. Instead, you stand where they swore you could not stand. The shock in their eyes is not mere surprise. It is the slow, irrevocable recognition that their judgment has been undone. It's fear. Fear of how disastrously wrong they were. Fear of the power that now rests quietly in your hands. Fear that their labels can no longer hold you. They meant for you to stay where they left you, but you moved beyond that border and movement breaks their maps. Their whispers and gossip used to stitch a story about you. Now those threads unravel because what they say no longer matches what everyone sees. The universe itself seems to side with reality. Each step you take peels back another hidden layer of strength. Every win, every comeback, every silent hour you refuse to surrender becomes evidence that cannot be argued away. That accumulation of proof forces a choice. People who once mocked you now hesitate. Some drift into admiration. A few bend toward loyalty. Truth does not ask permission. It simply exposes, and when it does, it compels a reckoning. Stay blind or accept what stands before you. You are not a face in the crowd. You perceive what they tried to hide. You know the work behind the calm, because you see, they cannot keep pretending you do not exist. The remarkable thing is how quickly the tide turns once reality is undeniable. Look to the pattern of history. Those who were scorned often became the ones the world could not ignore. The mocked were later celebrated when truth caught up. Your life follows that same current. You were ahead. The world is only now adjusting to the measure of you. They were unprepared for how soon the revelation would come. That unpreparedness is what shakes them now. Stay steady, chosen one. Their fear is the evidence of your rise. They are scrambling now, torn between resisting you and rushing to stand beside you. That conflict is telling. A turn toward you isn't always born of respect. Often, it is born of survival. When the tide rises in your favor, survival instinct erases pride. Mouths that once spat doubt now offer praise. Some of it is sincere, some of it is theater, but either way, it proves this truth. You move the world. This shift isn't accidental. When those who never believed are compelled to align, the universe is simply correcting its ledger. Falsehoods cannot be buried forever. Reality finds breath and, with slow, unstoppable patience, reveals what was hidden. Your life has been the quiet instrument of that revelation. You never had to shout for recognition. You did not have to break your stride to demand what was coming. You kept walking steady, unseen by many in the world, having no other choice, began to notice. Masks fell. Loyalties rearrange themselves. Those who swore they'd never acknowledge you are now rendered speechless by a single, simple fact. The truth about you is undeniable. They lose their balance because they were built to be right, not to be surprised. Your presence collapses their certainty. That collapse is their crisis and your vindication. Stand in that reality. Know that their wobble measures the depth of your eyes. So, chosen one, before we go deeper, feel the air. Do you sense the shift? Can you hear the pause where once there was only certainty? If this resonates, press like and subscribe so this confirmation can reach others who need to feel it too. If you know you are the real deal and you feel the universe exposing it, drop 777 in the comments right now, your stamp, your sign of alignment with this message. If this word landed in your heart, bless the team with support, like share, or a super thanks. Every action fuels the mission and widens the circle of light. Stand with this movement. You are not merely listening, you are a part of a force that refuses to let lies outweigh truth. Stay with me until the end, because if you truly are who I know you are, you will feel the pull to see it all unfold. Let us begin together. Number 1. When the spotlight burns, they cannot hide. They laughed while you ground in silence. Now their words choke on the brightness of your eyes. That sting in their chest is the echo of being proven wrong, and as you stand, their ruins become the proof of your ascent. Imagine that scene for a moment. They painted you small, muted strokes, safe colors, an image convenient for them to dismiss. Their brushes were loaded with assumption, gossip, and shallow judgment, and they believed those tidy lines would define you forever. But truth is not polite ink on paper. Truth is a flame. When reality stepped into that room, their portrait blackened, curled, and turned to ash before their eyes. That burning is their quiet panic, the sudden, raw loss of the story they told themselves about you. You never asked them to hold space for your light. You never waited for their seal of approval. All along, you carried your own witness, moments of quiet strength, small victories, a persistence that looked ordinary until it proved otherwise. Now that witness cries louder than their whispered lies. The proof you wore like armor becomes a beacon that exposes every false line they drew. Why does that exposure cut so deep? Because being wrong about you undermines who they think they are. It rattles their claim to discernment, strips away the order they depended on, and forces them to face a simple truth: they were blind when you were awake. That confrontation bruises pride, and pride fights back with anything it can call reason. So ask yourself and ask them, why did they ever assume you would fail? Was it because you didn't fit their narrow blueprint of success? Because your path refused their checklist? Or because it was easier, in their comfort, to name you weak than to consider you destined? Because believing in your strength frightened them, their reasons no longer matter. Every premise they stacked against you has fractured beneath the weight of your light. They labeled you ordinary. You became the exception. They predicted your surrender. You outlasted their expectation. They said your voice would never carry. Now it echoes in halls they cannot enter. Do not mistake their silence for innocence. This is not mere surprise. It is envy cloaked in quiet. It is jealousy behind polite smiles. You do not stand out because you sought attention. The universe did not fashion you to vanish into the gray. With each rise of yours, their insecurities split open. Your forward steps expose their stagnation, and that exposure becomes their torment. Worse still, others are noticing. Those who once fed their stories now drift toward your corner, pulled by authenticity they cannot deny. That reality wounds them more than any insult ever could. They believed prominence was costume and show. They forgot that true prominence is endurance. It is the daily refusal to bow to false images. It is rising again when no one applauds, persisting when no one believes. remaining faithful when no one expects you to prevail. This persistence is the furnace that forges your brilliance. It is why your light outshines 1,000 faint sparks. Imagine a room of candles. Most barely hold their flame. In one corner stands a fire so fierce it illumines the whole chamber. That fire is you. The dim candles resent it because your brightness reveals what they lack: courage, steadiness, truth. Remember this, chosen one, whatever they whisper, whatever they plot in shaded corners, cannot undo what reality has already set in motion. You are carved into the world. You are undeniable. They cannot dim your flame, yet they resent you for making them feel small. And here lies the irony: they cannot endure without your light. Your very presence is what breathes life into the room. This is their paradox. They cannot live with you, and they cannot live without you. So what remains for them? Some will sharpen their attacks, fabricating new lies, weaving new stories to convince themselves that you do not deserve to shine. Others will slip quietly to your side, pretending they always believed, hoping you forget the doubts they once spread. And still others will drown in silence, too proud to confess they were wrong, too shattered to face what is true. But all of it proves one reality: they see you now. They see you are not another nameless face. They see you are the real deal. And that truth will haunt them far more than any rumor they ever spoke. Chosen one, let that knowledge be your fire. Let their disbelief become fuel that drives you further. Every doubt they cast was a seed, and now those seeds have bloomed into undeniable proof. Your brilliance is not accident, not luck. It is forged in every night you refused to quit, every setback you bent into a lesson, every step you kept taking when they swore you were finished. That is why you stand apart. Not because proving them wrong was your mission, but because proving yourself true was always enough. So let them choke on their shock. Let them wrestle with their envy. Let them sit in the discomfort of their failed assumptions. For in the end, you do not merely stand out, you stand above. And with each step forward, you remind them their lies never had the power to define you. The truth did. The universe did. Now the world is compelled to look. Number 2, the truth they can no longer bury. They once sneered at your climb. Now they gag on the height you have reached. That is the hollow ache in them each time your name appears. For years they rehearsed a small story about you, a cheap second-rate outline in which you stayed stuck, muted, and forgotten. Yet here you stand, chosen one, on ground they swore you would never tread. They had built a cage for you, bars forged from rumor and low expectation. They expected you to rattle the bars forever, a portrait of confinement. While they watched and plotted, you turned their watchful hours into training. You found the key inside your own hands. You stepped beyond the enclosure and now run across fields so vast they cannot perceive the horizon. That vision is the very thing that gnaws at them. Understand this: what they call limitation became your resistance. Every attempt to bind you only taught you endurance. Every slight carved another layer of steel into your resolve. The very measures they used to restrain you became the instruments of your strength. That is why your rise feels like betrayal to them. It undoes the comfortable fiction they built around themselves. There is also a deeper truth about human nature. The mind clings to its stories, even false ones, because change threatens identity. Their anger and bewilderment come from an ancient fear, the world rearranged without their consent. They ask, in stunned whispers, how you outworked them, how you transcended their designs, how you achieved what they declared impossible. Carry this with you, chosen one. Their shock is testimony. Their disbelief is evidence. You did not need their permission to become what you were always meant to be. Every quiet night of persistence, every setback turned into lesson, every step taken when none applauded, these are the facts written into reality, not into gossip. Now step forward into the next truth. The world has seen, and seeing it must reckon. And every time they ask, the blade cuts deeper because you never stopped. While they mocked, doubted, and watched from the sidelines, you were building. You were grinding. You were becoming. First, they ignored you. Then they laughed. Then they fought. And now they are forced to watch you win. That is not a cliche. It is the cadence of your story. You have already marched through each stage, and you now stand in the chapter where denial has no shelter. They may never clap, they may never confess, but silence speaks louder than words. Their eyes give them away. Their envy betrays them. They see your results, your elevation, and it collides violently with the picture they once painted of you.
That collision feels like glass breaking in their own hands.
Picture it, they set the finish line far ahead, certain you would never reach it. They thought they had endless time to laugh, to whisper, to invent lies. But while they wasted their breath, you crossed that line, ran past 3 more, and now stand on a mountain they never even knew existed. That is the power of consistency. That is the fire of the chosen one. You refused their limits and built your own path, leaving them stranded in the dust of disbelief. They wonder now, was it luck? Was it timing? The answer is neither. It was persistence. It was you refusing to collapse. It was you wearing scars as armor and carrying lessons as weapons. And here lies the truth that breaks them most. Your rise was not magic. It was earned. And because it was earned, they cannot explain it away. If it were luck, they could dismiss you. If it were chance, they could ignore you. But earned glory is undeniable, and it demands recognition. When every answer they whisper is met by the hard facts of your labor, their refuge collapses. Reality does not bend to rumor. It yields only to effort. That truth is the wedge that splits their comfort. You worked while they slumbered. You built while they jeered. You advanced while they tried to chain you. This is why their disbelief is a choke in the throat, because the world answers to discipline, not to their stories. They ask in the dark, how did we fail to see? The answer lies in their choice, not to look. They saw only the image they preferred, not the hunger beneath your silence. They equated ease with strength, forgetting that true power is forged in hardship. They read setbacks as endings, when each one of yours was converted into fuel. They mistook quiet for weakness, but your quiet was a plan. These are the small betrayals of perception that now reveal a different ledger, the ledger of your work. Picture them holding a stacked deck, certain the odds favored their tale. Then you enter, overturn the table, and expose the bluff. The realization burns. The game was never theirs to script. They believed they had cornered you, yet the facts laid bare their deception and left them staring at a new order. And there is a deeper sting. Your ascent does more than undo falsehoods. It unmasks their sloth. Where they rested on assumptions, you rose by relentless exertion. Where they cultivated comfort, you cultivated craft. That contrast torments them, because it shows the truth they would rather hide. Success bows to persistence, not to ease. Remain steadfast, chosen one. Their questions are not a measurement of you, but of what they refuse to witness. Your labor has written the verdict. Their silence now only affirms the justice of your journey. They resent you because your labor exposes a mirror they cannot bear to face. Your success reveals who they might have been had they moved with your relentlessness. The reflection scorches them. Their silence curdles into bitterness. Their envy sharpens with each passing day. They cannot truthfully claim you did not earn what you have. They cannot say you are undeserving. All they have left is anger, because the facts shout louder than their stories. Truth is weighty, and few can shoulder it. Chosen one, you have borne that weight from the start. You bore it when they laughed at you. You bore it when they doubted you. You bore it when they tried to bury your name. Now that burden has become your radiance. It shines through all you are. Undeniable, unshakable, unbroken. That is why some of your former enemies turn. When facts stand immovable, even those who opposed you must, in secret or in shame, acknowledge the truth. Let them twist in that recognition. Let them choke on the realization. Let them sit among the ruins of the falsehoods they raised, while you continue to rise, to move, and to build. Every step you take hammers another nail into the coffin of their lies. They may hate it. They may deny it. They cannot undo it. Now consider this. The blade of your mind cuts where other weapons fail. They mistook your silence for dullness, yet silence concealed the keenest edge. That is the wound they now tend. They underestimated the very faculty that renders you unstoppable, your mind. Not the kind measured by framed letters on a wall, but the kind that adapts, discerns, and refines itself. Your intelligence reads through deception, as if through clear glass. It dissects problems others cannot name. Each challenge only sharpens it. They were reading children's tales while you were composing an entire library. They assumed you lagged because you spoke no shallow dialect. The truth is, you were operating on a plane beyond their comprehension. They feel blindsided now, because while they mocked, you were becoming. While their voices stayed loud with ridicule, yours grew quiet with learning. Their arrogance clung to what they already believed. Your days were spent sharpening knowledge into power. When your mind finally cuts through the fabric of their lies, they discover, too late, that they never stood a chance. Here is the truth that lodges in their throat. Intelligence is not the idle keeping of rules. Intelligence is the courage to bend them when the moment demands. It is the discipline to ask questions they fear. It is the gift of seeing order within chaos where others perceive only noise. That is what sets you apart, chosen one. They expected predictability. Instead, they met adaptability. Your capacity to change, to respond, to reform your strategy makes you untouchable to their cages. They misread your restraint as weakness because you refused to perform for those who never sought to understand. What they called silence was, in fact, preparation. Now every movement you make exposes the gulf between your depth and their shallowness. Your clarity reveals their ignorance. Knowledge, held and used, becomes a consuming fire that reduces their shadows to ash. You carried that flame in private. Now it burns openly, and no one can deny its light. Hold this without pride but with certainty. Their scrambling, their whispers, their stunned faces are testimony. Your mind was the blade, your patience was the whetstone. The facts stand immutable. The truth cannot be buried. Your keen intelligence has carved you a place no enemy can erase. Each time they try to deny it, they only wound themselves on the edge of your mind. That truth cuts quietly, relentlessly, and it forges the context for what follows. Number 4, the mask they made for you is shattering in their hands. They once fashioned a puppet image of you, a convenient fiction meant to keep you small. Now the strings have split, and the truth stands upright, undeniable. For years they molded a likeness from rumor and ease, an image designed to flatten your presence and soothe their sense of control. They painted you ordinary because that story preserved their safety. But false images cannot survive the arrival of reality. When reality enters a room, cheap plaster crumbles. While they labored at sculpting a fragile figure, you were forging yourself into steel. Each movement you make, each sentence you speak, each victory you claim, reduces their clay model to dust. What replaces it is a version of you they never planned for, sharper, stronger, more awake. Their hands shake because the thing they created in their heads no longer matches the truth before them. They ask, "How did we miss this?" Their question reveals the answer. They never truly looked. They chose convenience over seeing, fiction over fact. They built a mask and forced it onto your face, ignoring the signs of your brilliance, your resilience, your singular nature. Now the distance between fantasy and reality is too wide to bridge. That gap unmakes their certainty and leaves them exposed. Stand in that exposure, chosen one. Let the collapse of their false image be the stage on which your reality is revealed. The mask falls. The truth remains. They cannot deny what the universe has already declared. Falsehoods may endure for a season, but in the end, truth speaks last and speaks loudest. They hoped you would dissolve into the gray, become unnoticeable, swallowed by mediocrity. Yet you were never fashioned to be hidden. You were not meant to dull your flame. Now that your light burns plain, their story collapses under its own weight. Truth requires no defense. It simply stands while lies crumble into dust. Let them choke on the remains of what they invented, chosen one. As they flail in confusion, you remain steady and visible, the living proof that their version of you never existed. Now consider what they tried next, to make you vanish into the crowd. They wanted you to be background quiet wallpaper, forgettable and safe. Instead, you became a mural that takes up the whole wall. That realization hits them like a blow. They expected another face to fade into anonymity. They were prepared for one more echo of ordinary thought. Instead, they are forced to face your vivid presence, and it unsettles them deeply. Picture a field of dull stones, predictable, lifeless, all the same. Then, like a single, impossible light, a diamond flashes. That is you. They wished you would remain as drab as the rest, but your clarity and edge will not be concealed. Each idea you kindle, each step you take that defies their script, reminds them you are not one of them. Hold that image. Your difference does not alienate you from reality. It anchors you to it. Their discomfort only proves how far you have risen. Number 5 stands true. You were never meant to disappear in the crowd. You were made to be seen. That difference cuts them because it unmasks their mediocrity. They whisper, "Why can't this one be ordinary? Why can't they just blend like the rest?" But the answer is clear. You never needed their labels, their titles, or their hollow stamps of approval. You do not require a badge to think beyond limits. You do not need their validation to measure your worth. What sets you apart is hunger that refuses to sleep, courage that sees what others choose to ignore, and a mind that will not bow to fear's cage. That spirit is rarer than any certificate, and it terrifies them because it cannot be copied. Imitators are unsettled by originals, and your originality shakes their false comfort. This is why you stand out everywhere you go. You do not merely enter a room, you alter the atmosphere. Your presence itself becomes a confrontation, forcing them to see that they are stagnant while you are expanding. They cannot box you in. They cannot anticipate your steps. And they certainly cannot force you back into the gray crowd. You are too bright, too sharp, too alive. So let them squirm, chosen one. Let their discomfort be the echo of their illusions breaking. You were never meant to fade into sameness. You were destined to stand out, to disrupt, to prove that the universe does not honor conformity, it rewards authenticity. And you, chosen one, are its living proof. Number 6, the core they cannot touch, no matter how hard they try. They judged you by the surface, but it is your depth that overwhelms them. That ache in their chest is recognition. They thought they had you mapped, confined to labels, jobs, and roles they could define. Yet your worth was never theirs to categorize. What defines you is not a title you carry, nor the paycheck that changes hands, nor the fleeting light of any stage. What defines you is the core, the raw, unfiltered essence that remains when all noise falls away. That inner self is not theirs to measure, not theirs to command, not theirs to break. They skimmed your surface and thought they understood the entire sea. They laughed at the waves, dismissed the ripples, and concluded there was nothing more. Yet beneath that placid skin lay depths they could not imagine. That hidden vastness is you. When fragments of that depth break the surface, your insight, your quiet wisdom, your unyielding hunger for growth, it unsettles them because it forces a confession. They never truly saw you. They ask themselves aloud, how did we miss this? The answer is plain. They never looked past the comfort of their assumptions. Those assumptions were a refuge. If you were simple, they did not need to be afraid of your complexity. If you were ordinary, they could ignore the mirror that reflected their smallness. But now those safe stories crack, and what emerges from beneath is unfamiliar and, to them, dangerous. Depth is a threat to the shallow. Your steady growth rattles them because, while they chased surface affirmation, you pursued expansion. While they sought to be known, you settled for knowing more. That choice propelled you beyond every limit they dared to imagine. They thought they had you figured a sketch, a convenient outline. In truth, they barely skimmed the water. Your rise proves that true measure is taken in the deep places, not at the shore. Hold this quietly, your essence is sovereign. Their judgments were made from the surface. Your life was forged in the deep. As their illusions crumble, what remains is the unshakable fact of who you are. They could not dim you, yet their hatred grows because your success holds up a mirror they dare not face. Your rise reveals what they might have become had they moved as you did. That reflection scorches them.
Their silence curdles into bitterness.
Their envy sharpens daily. They cannot truthfully say you did not earn your place. They cannot claim you are undeserving. All that remains is anger because the facts cry louder than their fiction. Truth is heavy, and few can carry it. Chosen one, you bore that weight from the beginning. You bore it when they laughed at you, when they cast doubt, when they tried to bury your name. That burden has become your radiance. It flows through every action, every victory, every quiet hour. Undeniable, unshakable, unbroken. This very certainty forces some of your enemies into admission, even when the admission eats them alive. Let them squirm in their shame. Let them choke on the dust of the false stories they raised. While they tend to their ruined illusions, you continue to rise, to move, to build. Every step you take drives another nail into the coffin of their lies. They may hate it. They may deny it. They cannot change it. The truth stands, and it has chosen you. They hate that you outworked them because your labor shows them who they could have been. Your persistence holds up a mirror that burns. Their bitterness sharpens because they cannot refute the evidence of your discipline. You worked while they rested. You built while they mocked. You advanced while they tried to hold you still. Reality answers to effort, not to rumor. Their questions in the dark are a confession of their failure to see. They did not look closely. They only took the easy view. They mistook your silence for surrender, your calm for complacency. Yet your silence was strategy, your calm was craft. Your mind was the blade they never noticed until it cut them. Intelligence is not the keeping of rules. It is the wisdom to bend them when the hour requires. It is the courage to ask the questions they feared. They set a trap and believed you would fall. They baited their arrogance and waited. When the trap closed, it held nothing. You stood behind them with the map of every move they made. They thought you prey. In truth, you were the patient architect of their reckoning. Every scar sharpened your instincts. Every lesson became a weapon. Their miscalculation is their undoing. They built a mask of you and forced it onto your face, then wondered at the stranger when the mask crumbled. False images survive only so long as the world remains blind. When reality enters, cheap plaster falls away. While they sculpted clay, you became steel. Each victory dissolves the puppet they crafted and reveals the sharper, stronger, truer person they never anticipated. Depth unmasks the shallow. They skimmed the surface and declared victory. You sank into the deep and were forged there. Your essence cannot be catalogued by titles, paychecks, or applause. It is the core that remains when the noise is stripped away. They never looked for that depth because it demanded risk. Now they choke on their limited view while you keep diving, expanding, becoming. Their discomfort is proof of your ascent. So let them drown in the shallows while you keep diving deeper, chosen one. You are untouchable in that core. You are unshakable. You are undeniable. The game they played has backfired in their faces. They thought you were a pawn. You became the player who flips the board. Their panic is the echo of their own design collapsing. They misread your patience as weakness. It was strategy. They misread your silence as ignorance. It was preparation. Now stand. Keep moving. Every steady step, every quiet hour of work, every refusal to bow writes the truth into the world. They will ask, how did we miss this? The honest answer is they never truly looked. Your rise is not an accident. It is earned. And because it is earned, it cannot be explained away. Every betrayal sharpened your sight. Every lie you endured became a lesson, and those lessons now cut through deception like clear glass. Their old games fail because you have learned the rules they use and turned them against the shadow. Deception dissolves in the presence of clarity. You are that clarity, chosen one. You need not expose every secret. Your mere awareness shakes them. They feel it in your gaze, in the calm weight of knowing that strips their power away. That silent recognition terrifies them more than any accusation ever could. Let them tremble. Let them stew in the fear of being seen for what they are. The truth is now undeniable. They cannot fool you. They cannot use you. They cannot touch the place in you that is whole. The game is over. The player they underestimated has already claimed the victory. Number 8, the pushback itself testifies to your power. People do not hurl stones at trees that bear no fruit. Resistance rises because you bear fruit. They see your strength. They see your mind sever illusion, and it burns them. Their foundations shake because you were never meant to remain small in their eyes. They expected silence, stagnation, invisibility. Instead, they find proof of their own misjudgment, and that proof makes them restless. So they push back. They seek to silence you because admitting your rise would be an admission of their failure. Their resistance is not a measure of your weakness. It is evidence of your force. Each shove, each attempt to drag you down, only confirms that you have moved beyond their map. Walk on. Their stones will only mark the path you have already passed. Imagine this. A storm gathers not because the sky resents the mountain, but because the mountain stands so tall it diverts the storm's path. That mountain is you. Your presence disturbs the ease of others. Your rise reveals their stillness. Your courage unmasks their timidity. Their uproar is not random. It is a direct recoil against your height, your refusal to yield. They whisper, "Why them and not us? How did this person break through when we could not?" The answer is simple and merciless. You moved while they only wished. You labored while they merely doubted. You advanced while they froze in place. Each of your victories carries the weight of disciplined work, quiet focus, and a refusal to settle for comfort. That reality unsettles them more than any insult ever could. Remember, opposition is the price of being real. Resistance shadows every chosen one who dares to rise. Yet resistance is not proof of failure, it is evidence of influence. It shows you are shaking systems they assumed were immovable. It shows you are now a mirror they cannot bear to face. So let them press. Let them rage and scheme. The harder they push, the clearer it becomes. You are already ahead. Stand firm, chosen one. The storm that swirls around you only confirms the height you have claimed. They built a lie about you, and now that fiction cracks under the weight of truth. Number 9. Their whole picture of you was a false portrait. They sketched a cartoon in their minds, then behaved as if that caricature were the whole of you. Reality handed them a masterpiece they cannot erase, and that realization is the sting they carry. From the beginning, they judged you by convenience, not by evidence. Not by accident, but by choice. They gathered whispers, half-formed jealousies, and idle assumptions, and glued them into a likeness that never lived. It was easier to tend that lie than to reckon with the real thing. Yet, lies are brittle. When confronted by proof, they fracture. You are nothing like the shadow they painted. Think of them standing before a fortress, shouting at its outer wall and claiming victory over what they have not entered. When the gates open, their certainty falls away. Inside is depth they never imagined. Inside is strength they did not foresee. That fortress is you. So why were they so wrong? The answer is simple. They chose not to see. They skimmed the surface because surface is safe. They preferred convenient narratives to the hard work of understanding. Their vision stopped at comfort. They never looked into the deep places where your true measure was formed. Now, as their portraits crumble, the facts remain. You stand revealed. Their confession is in the rubble of their fiction. Chosen one, let that truth settle in your bones. They mistook convenience for knowledge, and their mistake is your vindication. They never wanted to look beneath the surface. Facing your truth would have forced them to face their own weakness, so they chose the lie instead. That comfortable fiction sheltered them until comfort collapsed and left them naked before reality. Their humiliation now is the cost of that cowardice. Assumptions are graves where truth is buried. In their minds they dug a tomb for you, certain that the false image would hold. Yet you climbed out, whole and unbroken, while their narrative lay in rubble. Every victory you claim, every step you take, strips another layer from their flimsy story. The shock on their faces becomes the clearest proof they never knew you at all. Let them wrestle with that confusion. Let them drown in the stories they told themselves. The truth stands before them now, plain and immovable. Their misjudgment will follow them, a constant reminder each time they see you rise anew. They chose the shallow end, and so they drowned there. They skimmed your surface and mistook appearance for essence. Their fear kept them where the water felt safe. Their envy blinded them to depth. They slapped labels on you, satisfied with a quick judgment, and convinced themselves they understood. But you are not a puddle to be stepped over. You are an ocean layered, complex, vast. Now that depth breaks against them like a tide they cannot bear. Picture someone peering only at the ripples, mocking the water for appearing small and tame, unaware of the current beneath a current strong enough to swallow ships, alive with depths they will never know. They were mistaken. Their failure to look deeper did not erase your complexity. It only revealed their fear. They ask now, why did we not see? How did this person slip past us? The truth is plain. They never looked with honest eyes. They lingered on the surface because the surface felt safe. They avoided depth because depth demands courage, and courage was foreign to them. You were never ordinary, but calling you ordinary soothed their conscience. You were never predictable, yet pretending you were helped them sleep. Now those comforting illusions have fallen away, and they choke on the fact of your reality. Depth terrifies the shallow because it forces confession. It forces them to admit how empty their choices have been. Continue to dive. Let them cling to the shallows while you press into the deep. You are the ocean they will never map. Your layers, your sharp mind, your relentless spirit are forces they cannot name. Each day your life proves them wrong. Each victory is a wave that reveals what they refused to see. Number 11, you shattered the cage they built for you. They attempted to press you into their narrow mold, but you broke that mold into pieces that wound their own hands. That is the sting they feel whenever your name is spoken. They expected compliance, a mimicry of the tired patterns that keep them comfortable. They expected you to live within the routines that suffocate growth. They hope to render you predictable because predictability is control. Instead, you refuse to fit. Your refusal exposed their attempt to govern you by habit and fear. Every time you move beyond their script, their certainty fractures. Their plan depended on a version of you that would never rise. You rose anyway. Hold that. Their broken cage is proof of your escape. The shards belong to them now. They will nurse the cuts from their own design. You, chosen one, keep walking. Keep rising. Their control, their maps, their safe stories will crumble under the pressure of your depth and insistence. The truth remains. You were never theirs to define. You were never forged to follow a script. You were fashioned to break patterns, to rupture the molds others press upon you. In that rupture, your enemies see their own fragility. They poured their expectations as molten metal into a cast, believing you would cool into their shape. Instead, the fire within you grew hotter, the pressure rose, and the mold exploded. What remains is not their design, but something uncontainable, stronger, rarer, and more valuable than they imagine. You were meant to shatter their categories, not to fit them. Now they stand amid the wreckage, bitter and bewildered, whispering for reasons they cannot name. Why cannot this one be ordinary? Why will this one not obey the rules they hand out like commandments? The answer is simple. Those rules were never made for you. You do not walk straight lines. You do not follow the paths handed down as instructions. You carve roads where no road existed and, by doing so, expose conformity as choice rather than necessity. Your refusal to bow reveals how long others have bowed to limits that never belonged to them. Those who refuse the mold become the fire that melts it. Your presence unsettles them because you demonstrate a truer possibility. Life is not living inside boundaries, but expanding them. Your journeys are not merely outward, they are inward and upward. You ask harder questions. You reach for truths they fear. That hunger makes you unrepeatable. So let them cling to the shards of their expectations while you ascend. Let them nurse their broken casts while you continue to melt and remake the world around you. Chosen one, keep rising. You were never meant to fit inside their frame. You were meant to break it, to expand beyond it, to prove that the universe does not reward comfort but courage. Number 12, the core they can never take from you. They can strip away titles, seize possessions, and erase status, but they cannot touch the essence of who you are. That is the truth that shakes them, chosen one. The world trained them to measure worth by symbols that fade: cars, clothes, houses, and shallow trophies. Yet you stand as proof that true value is not worn on the surface. It dwells in the unseen, in the depth of your mind, the fire of your determination, the root of your being. And here is what unsettles them most. They cannot buy it, borrow it, or steal it. Imagine two houses side by side. One gleams outwardly polished and perfect, yet inside it is hollow and collapsing. The other looks simple, even plain, but its foundation is bedrock, unshakable. You are that second house. While others decorated facades, you invested in what holds everything together. That is why storms that shatter them only strengthen you. Your worth does not cling to surfaces. It is rooted in the core. They whisper, "Why will this one not bend? Why do they not care about impressing us?" The answer is clear. You have seen the emptiness of their approval. You have lived through being misjudged, defined by assumptions that never matched the truth. And in that fire, you learned what cannot be shaken. Your essence is untouchable. And you came to a powerful realization. Those who live on the surface will never understand depth. They fear what lies beneath, so they stay in the shallows. You, chosen one, kept diving, and in those deep places you uncovered strength, meaning, and purpose they will never touch. Authenticity is the currency the shallow cannot afford. That is why your presence unsettles them. You refuse their masks. You refuse to shrink for approval. You choose connection over performance, meaning over noise, growth over comfort. Every time you stand firm in that truth, you reveal how fragile their definitions of worth have always been.
So let them cling to their hollow trophies.
Let them guard their shallow measures of value. What defines you cannot be taken, shaken, or erased. It is the depth of your essence, the fire at your core, and no imitation can replicate it. Number 13, rise beyond their limits, elevate beyond their reach. They tried to trap you in yesterday, but growth breaks every chain. That is what burns them most. They wanted you frozen, predictable, easy to label and dismiss. But you refused to stay where they left you. You pressed deeper, broke their boundaries, and discovered meaning where they only saw appearances. They were wrong from the very beginning, yet their blindness is not your burden. Imagine this: they planted you in shallow soil, confident your roots would never stretch. But instead of withering, you broke through the ground, spreading wide, rising tall, reaching light they never thought you would touch. They watched you grow, and each new leaf, each new branch became an accusation. Their miscalculation gnaws at them because your elevation exposes how little they themselves have changed. They whisper, "Why did we not see this coming? Why did we expect you to stay small?" The answer is plain. You were never meant for the surface. Growth is written into your essence. You carried, always, a hunger to expand, to learn, to ascend while they clung to comfort. Your eyes lays bare their stagnation. Every advance you make forces them to confront the smallness of their own lives. That confrontation unsettles them, but it is not your burden to bear. Your duty is not to soothe their discomfort. Your duty is to press onward, to keep elevating, to keep ascending into the spaces they swore you would never reach. So tend your spirit, chosen one. Love your work. Nurture your mind. Pour your strength into building what endures, not merely for yourself, but for those who are ready to climb beside you. Some will never understand, and that is all right. Their hesitation and fear have nothing to do with your purpose, because you know who you are and where you are going. Keep growing. Keep rising. With every height you claim, you remind the world that their limits were never yours to accept.